Welcome back to Divided We Stand. I'm your host, Victoria Lang, along with just Joe Aguirre today. I don't know why I said that, like just Joe Aguirre. It's still going to be feisty. It's still going to be
hurtful.
A fun time. Sorry. Didn't mean it that way.
Fair enough. I won't be offended.
You know, hopefully we won't make it too one way this week since it's just the two of us, but it's okay. Like, it's fine.
Well, let me start off by saying this. As a fine American, and as somebody who identifies really as an independent, really in the middle at this point,
right?
I see the irony in Donald Trump being ill with COVID. I don't relish in it. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's, it's fine. And listen, my wife and my daughter both posted stuff basically saying that they hoped he died, and I was like, take that down.
Yeah.
He's still the president of the United States. And I'll be honest, I would rather see Donald Trump defeated at the polls than in life. I think that would be I would want him to know that the American people have overwhelmingly rejected him and his ideology. That's what I would like to see, Victoria.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I think that he really needs to relish in the defeat that I hope that he gets. But I'm not going to say.
I'm not okay if you're happy about it. I think I understand what you're saying.
I don't know how to say it without being completely controversial, but like, he has killed so many people by drawing back testing and lying about vaccines and doing all of this just crazy shit. So I just think he deserves it. I also he left today. He left the hospital. He left fist pumping. He was really happy about it. He also tweeted. I kind of want to get his exact tweet. It's absolutely crazy. He's basically just saying a bunch of stuff, absolutely downplaying COVID, making it a joke. He said, we'll be back on the campaign trail soon. The fake news only shows the fake polls. And it's just not quite sure what's going on here. Sending such a horrible message.
A lot of them are going along with that don't believe the poll thing. And I'll tell you this, and for anybody who, because I hear this all the time, Victoria, Hillary was up by 30 points in the polls, which was true at one point. Back in June of 2016, she was up by 30, and then Russia did what it did. This week in 2016, she was leading Donald Trump by 2.5%. That's it.
Right.
So anybody who wants to tell you the polls were wrong, they most certainly weren't. And she won by 3%. So the polls were deadly accurate, as they always are. This was no different.
Isn't it different I thought things were different this year in like what's considered a swing state and stuff. So it makes the polls like more accurate or something in the states that Joe Biden is winning in. Do you know what I'm saying? I could be just confused.
I do. I totally understand what you're saying. I think that I'll be honest. I think it's more likely that he's faking having COVID than he is to die from it. Because and if that is the case, and it certainly could be, his leaving the hospital early, not a good idea. It really isn't. If he, the president of Argentina or Brazil rather did something similar where he said he had COVID and then he came back super strong, super excited. The people hate him there. So, but it gives you a myth-like image to beat COVID and to be back on the campaign trail 3 days later. I think if you're Donald Trump and you're 74 years old and you're obese and he's got other medical conditions that are of concern. I know he hates being called obese, but he is.
Yeah.
He should be home resting is where he should be. And he most certainly shouldn't be out shaking people's hands or anywhere near anybody.
I know. Also,
he's still in the zone where a person of his age and his weight, which is obese, as I mentioned a moment ago.
Yes, Donald Trump is obese.
I'll mention it again. He's within that 5 to 7 days, you could take a terrible turn for the worse. And we've seen it happen over and over again with patients who have contracted COVID that you start to think, whoa, well, maybe I'm all right. Maybe this ain't so bad. And next thing you know, you're in the hospital. I think the other really curious thing is the medical team at Walter Reed has been extremely dishonest. Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, has been playing some kind of weird game where he went and told the press the opposite of what the doctor says. I mean, it's a bizarre thing. The president was on oxygen before he went to the hospital. That we do know. So at some point, the president was in really bad condition, and it's certain that he could revert back to that. So I don't think we've cleared the woods just yet. Him going back to the White House, I'm not sure that that's the best idea, but nor is downplaying COVID at this point.
Absolutely not.
He said, you remember just a couple weeks ago, I think you brought it up, that nobody is affected by COVID, which I guess makes him a nobody.
Right. Nobody's affected by COVID. Exactly. Donald Trump is obese. So, fact check on that one. That is a fact. Also, to just really set it in there, only 3 days after homeboy was diagnosed with COVID, he not only is leaving the hospital, he's back in the White House, which Melania, she's not cool with it. Even when he was in the hospital, she was like, I'm not going to visit him. Sorry, fam, but you're going to have to isolate alone. So I'm sorry about that, but I want no part of it. And she was alone. She said that she was happy chilling at the White House, solo dolo, having the place to herself, whatever. Direct quote. That's what she said. That's exactly what she said. Words came out of her mouth. But he also made $100 coin that you can buy if anybody wants to go buy it. It says Trump defeats COVID, and they're on sale at the website of the White House gift shop, which is not affiliated with the White House. Have to put that in there. So
I hate to bring this up,
one of those.
but if he were to die, that coin would become a collector's item.
Should I get one? Should I invest? Is it like Bitcoin? Maybe.
I'll tell you, listen, he's an interesting character. I mentioned Hillary was up 2.5 at this point in 2016. Biden is up by 13 points. And more interestingly, Biden is up in states that he needs to win.
Right.
And, well, there you go. Trump trails in 10 of 11 swing states, and also the majority of people who watched that debate, half of them thought that Biden outperformed. 24% said Trump did. The rest said it was just the worst thing they'd ever seen. Yeah. 73% of people who were spoken to said that it didn't mean anything. They already knew who they were voting for. This certainly wasn't going to change it.
Right.
So I think it's interesting, though, that 27% of people bought into the debates and maybe took something out of that. And if that be the case, I will tell you this, Victoria, I have a lot of Republican friends. And I spoke to several of them this week. And every single one of them said to me, that was awful.
Because it was.
They thought Donald Trump blew an opportunity to make Joe Biden look like an imbecile. And they thought, this is a strategy they used, Victoria. Mm-hmm. Chris Christie, who is still obese, but not as obese as he once was. The strategy that Giuliani and Christie worked with Trump was to interrupt Biden, to frustrate him, and to get his stutter to kick into effect. That was their game plan. It wasn't to talk about policy. It wasn't to talk about what's coming in the next 4 years. It was to try to make a man who stutters and who's been fighting that his whole life to stutter. Instead, he told you you're a clown, and then he told you to shut your mouth.
Right. And I watched a lot of different videos and read different articles and stuff, especially from other people's perspectives who don't live in the US. And the response is just obscene. Never before. I expected it to get bad, but Donald Trump was just downright disrespectful. And then he got called a clown. The president of the United States got called a clown on TV on a debate. Like, that's absurd. I also think it's absurd that the president of the United States literally has the coronavirus, and there will be another debate on Wednesday with plexiglass. That is their solution. Plexiglass. We're still having the debate. So I don't know. This conspiracy theory has been out for a while. My dad's conspiracy theory that Joe Biden would be the one getting coronavirus so he wouldn't be able to debate Trump. Well, now how the turned have tables, because it will be happening and there will be plexiglass, but this time it is Donald Trump.
Love it. Our buddy Tyler Bard from Baseball with the Bard, another great CMG podcast, sent a message. Trump only beat Hillary because us moderates thought change in politics would be great. We were wrong. And hopefully we all make the right move this time. Hashtag Biden Harris 20. And I'll tell you what, and I would say to people like Tyler and anybody else who voted for what they thought they were getting, if you honestly can look in the mirror and say that this guy overperformed or met your expectations,
right, even met your expectations.
But if you're being honest with yourself, you have to admit, and if you think that Obama did a bad job, if you think Obama divided America, you absolutely can't tell me. You can't look me in the eyes and say, well, this guy's brought us together.
This guy has really joined us. He's like,
it's laughable. And again, the idea that this clown is on stage talking about how terrible and all the problems we'd have if Joe Biden was the president by talking about what's literally happening on his watch. It's an insult to any American with a brain. If you're a person who has a brain and you can formulate thoughts and you're looking at Donald Trump objectively, you can't possibly think to yourself, I need 4 more years of this guy. Now, I understand Joe Biden isn't all that in a bag of chips. I get it. I do. I understand that. He's not my guy. That's for sure.
Definitely wasn't anybody's first pick.
No.
I don't think.
No. I don't know. I mean, I think most Democrats were hoping that he would get COVID and step aside. And instead, listen, I thought he did a nice job of the debate. I thought he handled himself as well as a person could handle himself when they are talking to an uneducated buffoon. And that's what Donald Trump,
country.
It's what Donald Trump came across at that debate. Not that I was expecting anything great from Donald Trump. I thought he would do better than that. I really did. And I'm glad that most Republicans and most people, the 24% who said Trump outperformed it in the debate, are the 24% of America that's absolutely in awe of this guy. This hero worship nonsense has to stop. I thought it was the same way with Obama. That hero worship. Was he a good president? Yeah, he was all right. Was he the greatest of all time? No. And if you think he was, I'd love to sit and debate that for a couple hours with you. I'll tell you all the reasons why I don't think he was. Is he anti-American and a Muslim? No, he's absolutely not.
Oh my God.
Just like you and I. He's an American. And that's fine. We have to learn how to accept our differences. I said this last week. I think it bears repeating, especially in light of the fact that I think Joe Biden's probably going to win this election. I have not heard one person on the right in any right-wing media in any way, shape, or form talk about how we coexist moving forward together, no matter who the president is. I haven't heard Ben Shapiro talk about it. I haven't heard Tucker Carlson talk about it. I haven't heard the Fox and Friends talk about it. I haven't even heard people like Chris Wallace, who's generally a little more center than most of the people are. I haven't heard him talk about it. I hear liberals talk about it because and here's the thing, they have a pretty good feeling they're going to win.
Yeah.
And yet they're looking at their fellow Americans who have referred to them as libtards for the last 5 years.
Loves them.
And despite that fact, have continued talking about how we reconcile this country going forward. So I would say kudos to the liberals on that one?
I mean, kudos to the liberals. I think that honestly, we could be doing a little bit of a better job talking about, because I think there's been a lot of questioning, but the action or even like the planning, there's no planning to be had. So kudos to the liberals for even asking the question, for posing what are we going to do? But I think that we need to, get some action in place, because realistically, what is the government going to do? Or literally anybody who's in charge, the president, anybody, what are they going to do for us to really like unify us? Nothing. We kind of just like have to do it ourselves, us and our Facebook posts and our weird everything else in our interactions in our daily lives. That's what's really going to make the difference when it comes to, after November 3rd and when everything is said and done, what America's going to look like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, seriously. Interesting comment from Tyler. The right wants a war if Trump doesn't win. And here's the thing. Dan Bengingo, whatever his name is, big conservative voice. And really, to me, if you watch him, one of the stupidest people on the face of the earth. And it's shocking how many fans that guy. I mean, he really is. He really is a stupid person.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they've really taken him. He was an NRA TV guy originally. Now he has a nationally syndicated show, and he talks a lot of crazy. I watched the video from the Proud Boys earlier today talking about starting a war. Yeah, I mean, here the problem is you have Donald Trump and his son, Donald Jr., who's another putz, who have continued to talk about liberals and illegal immigrants, or just immigrants in general, as animals in an attempt to dehumanize them. And when you dehumanize people, as they have done, what you end up with is the right wanting a war if Trump doesn't win. And that's exactly where we're headed. And I would expect that there would be violence. I think that idiotic 24% that thought that Trump won that bait would be the same 24% who would be looking to start some trouble. And so I guess all we could do is be ready for it.
I guess. I mean, I don't think that there is really a way to be ready for it, but I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, I think that the worst case scenario would really be, I guess, what I mean by that is if the right started protesting the way that we are, if there was riots and stuff like that because Trump didn't win. But like, I don't realistically seeing that happen. And I know that the hypocrisy is insane, but I don't think that these people who are so against the violence and whatever would put themselves out there in that way to fight for what they believe in. I don't think that they have it in them, to be completely honest. I don't think that they have the years of aggression, the years of... Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. I definitely do. Here's the other thing. The way these people are offended is laughable.
Right. I think that that's like the biggest thing. They really have no case. So for people to be going and burning the streets when they have literally nothing to base it off of, I think that is what I can't really see happening, because things go pretty far, but I don't know if I don't know if we're going to see a lot of that. I really don't. I'm sure we'll see some of it. I'm sure.
Listen, I think when you consider that a lot of these people on the right, again, increasingly see this as, I had a conversation with someone the other day, and the person ended up crying. You can imagine how horrible I felt. They basically said to me, look, I support Trump because I support my rights. I believe in my rights, and I want secure borders. And I was like, are you joking? I mean, seriously, you're joking, right?
No sense.
Do you really think that the Democrats don't want you to have rights? What?
Well, I think right now we are more fighting so you can have more
Right.
rights.
Again, I
feel
talked
the
about a
right is the one
conservative
that's
court,
taken away.
Victoria, is not good for the little guy.
Absolutely not. And like not even just like the little guy, even like your dad that like works at a law firm, like even he's gonna get like the boot in the ass eventually. You know,
Yeah.
like unless you're literally a billionaire, you're not what are you getting from that, you know?
Right. So again, these people support an ideology. It's not something they're experiencing for themselves, because I think deep down they all think that at some point they're going to become millionaires, and then they'll have the same problem Trump has, trying to pay $750 a year in federal taxes.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing the hypocrisy. The same people that have been complaining about Joe Biden, the same people who said Hillary Clinton was dying, are upset that a few liberals are glad Trump's got COVID. When, I mean, come on, people, grow up. Grow up. Look what your side's doing. Look what your side is doing. How can you be all offended when you get it right back? I don't know. I mean, I really don't understand.
And I remember when even when Bernie Sanders was like first running, everybody's like first remark that they had about him that he was old as fuck, and that he was gonna die. And just look at him, he looks like he's withering away. But him and Trump have like 3 years difference or something like that. And him,
not even. I think they're the same age.
Literally.
Again, you know, it's and this is what makes it hard to respect Trump supporters is. And it's an impossible task if you're a Trump supporter, because you can't logically ever be consistent. You just can't be, because things that are on one side, you won't apply to the other side. It's that basic reasoning that they're completely lacking at this point, because it doesn't fit what they want to believe. So it's easy to call stuff that you don't agree with fake news. I've argued many times, and I'll say this again. I think most people on the right don't know anything about Black Lives Matter. No. Other than it's not white lives or all lives, and they hate that. Learn about the organization. Look at the stats. Wonder why people are taking to the streets. There's probably a reason for it. Now, the other part of my conversation with this Republican was, I don't want socialism like they have in Cuba and Venezuela. And I got to tell you, you know, I find that to be a shocking amount of ignorance from a person who I think is really smart. That a person would believe that. My own mother said the same thing to me about it. You know,
what is actually happening in Venezuela?
Listen, as if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are out there shaking hands and meeting people all across the country, and they're like, "We're going to bring Venezuela here."
Right.
I mean, does that seem likely or logical in any way, shape, or form?
I mean, absolutely not. But none of the other ideologue. Oh my God, I can't even form my words. It's like rubbing off on me. But just nothing else really makes sense that comes out of that. Even when you watch the debate, how many lies that Trump said. Oh my God. I watched this video. I shared it on Facebook. I wish I had it right now so we could play a clip from it. But it was just like every lie that he said and then just like a fact check after it. And there was at least like 20 or something like that in the midst of an hour and a half. And that is just so unbelievable. But the thing is, Trump supporters will not take the time to look into whether the information that he's spreading is factual or not. They'll just take it and run with it because the president can't just say whatever he wants. Well, I guess he can, because it is literally happening right now.
Are you familiar with the hashtag Where's the River?
No.
Okay, so the other day, Kayleigh McEnany, who, by the way, is also positive for COVID, was doing a press conference.
Oh my gosh.
She was asked about a statement the president made where he said a whole bunch of ballots were found in a river, in a ditch. Mm-hmm. The reporter asked the question, well, what river was it? And Kayleigh didn't have the answer, and suggested it was interesting that those journalists had no journalistic curiosity about the ballots. And the guy was like, well, I'm asking you where the river is. If you could tell me where it happened, I'd like to know more about the story, about these 7. Turns out it wasn't 7 ballots. It was just random pieces of mail that were found in a ditch. There was no ballots. And even if there were, how would you have known they were Trump ballots unless you opened them?
Yeah, isn't that illegal?
Yes.
What's up with that?
I mean, so it was either sealed ballots and you didn't know who they voted for, or you opened the ballots and broke the law to see who they had voted for.
Mm-hmm.
But then the interesting question was, how would the person have known what those 7 ballots were? Again, as it turns out, that was a lie. There are no ballots found in a swamp. That's just another untrue thing. I found it interesting that the president went after Hunter Biden. Again, beat that $3.5 million conspiracy theory the mayor of Moscow gave Hunter $3.5 million. It's been debunked.
Mm-hmm.
The Republican Intelligence Committee has cleared of any wrongdoing Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton. It's in a Republican Senate Intelligence Committee report.
Right.
Just like idiots that they are, Christopher Wray, FBI director, appointed by Trump after he fired James Comey, said Antifa is not an organization. It's an idea. It's anti-fascism, which is amazing that people in this country suddenly support fascism, I suppose. I really don't understand that either. But you want to dispute facts that come from Trump's own people.
Right.
This is the problem we have. It's also interesting, John Kelly, former chief of staff, has remained so tight-lipped, although he did agree with General Mattis, whose assessment of Donald Trump was that he's erratic, he's unstable, and he doesn't know anything.
Right? Accurate.
Rex Tillerson called him a fucking moron, so famously in his first term. I mean, everybody who's worked with this president, John Bolton, I mean, name anybody. Not one person's got a good thing to say about him. Not one person's been like, well, I'll be honest, he's smart. He really does a good job. When they leave, they all tell you exactly what's going on in there. I mean, it's striking. And again, this idea, like everybody's against Trump. Again, 179 countries, the World Health Organization, nearly 1 million Americans. Everybody's just getting COVID just to screw Trump over. This is how stupid you people are.
Right.
It's a stupid thought. It makes no sense. Your options are 179 countries, about 10 million people, the entire World Health Organization, Iran, China, and Russia, and the Democrats all working in some amazing conspiracy to screw Trump over.
Right.
Or Trump's a liar. Those are your options. I mean, let's think about it from a simplistic standpoint, right? Let's go with Occam's razor. Which of those things are the more obvious? Which one's more likely to be true? A grand conspiracy of the entire fucking world? Or Donald Trump told another lie? He's already told 20,000, but this time, nah. I mean, I love Mike Gaudiosi. I wish he had joined us tonight, but Mike is famous for that. Like this, I think this one time Trump's telling the truth. You do? Really?
Right. And oh my God, it makes me so mad that freaking Mike won't tell me or tell us who he's voting for. Whatever he says, we don't know that he's voting for Trump. So that makes me kind of feel like we've got him on our side. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt. But I feel like he gives the president a benefit of the doubt way too much. I don't know why, but I don't know if he thinks that Donald Trump has got like Mr. Nice Guy syndrome and just like can do no wrong. I really don't know, but it's
what it is.
Like in the eyes of so many people that is what's going on.
Look, I'll tell you what it is. I mean, Republicans want to support Republicans. If you're a Republican, you're pretty hardcore in your beliefs. It's not often, Victoria, that you'll meet somebody like me who's like, yeah, I can't be part of this garbage. Can't do it. Got to step aside. Now, again, I don't love the Democrats. That's why I didn't become one. But I like what they're doing better. I like their ideas better. Their policies have a better impact on the entire world. Their policies have a better impact on me and my family. Mm-hmm. And so I'll vote Democratic until the Republicans change that. And the other thing I find striking is, and my wife and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday, ever since the transgender ban from the military, the Republicans' position from that point till everything we do today is whatever the liberals think, it's the opposite. It literally is. If you guys, liberals, I mean, Victoria, all suddenly said that you hated the Iran deal, we'd probably jump back in it.
Probably.
if you guys said that you didn't like the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, you'd probably jump back in it.
Probably. Absolutely.
Like this is, and again, for me, as somebody who was a Republican for a long time, it gave them money for many, many elections, Victoria. I'm ashamed of what they're doing now. Like appalled that, again, we don't have a game plan. The game plan's just whatever, the opposite of what the Democrats want.
It is, and
not good.
It's so surprising, especially when all these policies and stuff like that, like the transgender, what was it? I think it was like the rollback on like them enrolling in the military and stuff. So that basically made it so transgender people that were already enlisted could stay, but people couldn't enroll. But all policies like that, and pretty much everything that's really been happening, it lacks nuance. It has no nuance, and I absolutely do not understand why that is okay, especially with such detrimental things to like our society, our military, literally everything. I don't understand how we get away with writing out such a, I don't know, like a flatlined or just like a blank plan, or I don't know what a word for it would be. My vocabulary right now is just, I don't even know what's going on. I'm like fried or something. But
it's the beginning of the week.
I know. It's just, my life is hard. But basically what I'm saying is just, before we write out all these protocols and stuff, especially like the nasty ones that like literally ban people from enrolling or enlisting in the military, why don't we look at the real issues here and really delve deep into it and maybe pick out the certain policies that don't line up? Because I think that the biggest issue that people had with the transgender one was that they considered gender dysphoria basically like the border or the basis for being transgender as a mental illness, and they don't allow people with other mental illnesses into the military, or they at least go over what they're going to allow, but they don't really give that same leisure to people who are transgender, even though gender dysphoria isn't really like a mental illness. Do you know what I'm saying? And I just think that that is kind of a good of the policies. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, look, again, this is where you run into these religious issues. This is where you run into the religious stuff. This is where you start running into you know, you're running into religious issues. The same thing with gay marriage, same thing with abortion. You know, this all stems back to some stupid book that was written or that was culled 3,000 years ago that took old stories and myths and rewrote them with new characters. And this is what people want to base our laws on. A book that's been completely debunked. There's not a piece of information in the Bible that has ever been verified to be true. And that's what we're basing our laws on. And I have a real problem with that, because that's a book that doesn't condemn slavery or rape or torture or genocide for that matter. So it's probably not a good place to get your laws from. Okay. Right. But when you bring the religious element, you make it personal for people, and you give these idiots on the right cause to say that they're being attacked. Again, I point out it's the year 2020. We started keeping track of years based on when Jesus Christ died. So there's no war on the Christians. You pretty much won. We gave you the fucking calendar. Right. It's all yours. I mean, it's really the year like 5,700 if you're really keeping track with modern times. But we're like, yeah, sure, okay. It's been 2020 since Jesus left. Great. And there's no proof Jesus existed. But again, this is the conversation. These are the arguments we're having with Christian fundamentalists. The Republicans continue to court the uneducated votes because, again, those people see the Republicans serving their cause. I take great offense at the fact that the Republicans have the gall to still claim patriotism as their own with a president who's had the weird relationship he's had with Russia. No collusion. Well, something weird going on there, though, yeah? Something weird. Something you should at least be, I would think, a little bit alarmed by.
Right, especially when people are so alarmed by everything that's, and this is quotes if you're just listening, my fingers are in air quotes, everything that's going on with China. How can you be suspicious of anything that is going on with China and them trying to interfere in the election and literally have no red flags raised about anything that's going on with Russia? None of it. There's none. There's just a gap here.
I mean, really, it's honestly disappointing again to see Republicans looking at these issues again. And here's my other favorite part. 19 Republican attorney generals are fighting to take your health care away and to make sure that pre-existing conditions are no longer to be covered by law. 19 Republican states are fighting for you if you have a pre-existing condition. And by the way, COVID will be a pre-existing condition going forward, just so you know. If you have it, they don't have to cover you, and you'll go bankrupt with your hospital bills. And that's what the Republicans want. Can somebody explain to me, when all we've been talking about for the last 10, 12, 15 years is healthcare, why the Republicans would prefer that we don't have it, that we can't get protected, that we can't be covered? They've already done a horrible job with this. Again, and here's my other thing. Where's that second stimulus bill?
Where's it at? I don't
you shut us down, you force us to stay home, and then you cut the money train off.
Right. And you complain about making us stay home. They complain about it, and they're like, oh, this isn't real. But wouldn't that... You would think that they would want to give us more if they were pushing out that we're just staying home for a hoax, that all of this is fake news. Don't you think that they would want to have our backs a little bit more? Like, none of this makes any sense.
Well, and their idiot leader gets it, and it doesn't change anything. And again, that's the upsetting part. I'm strongly anti-incumbent, particularly of Republicans, but I'll be honest, people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I mean, what are they doing? What are they really doing?
Nothing.
Doesn't feel like much. It's a lot of posturing. And I ain't seeing anything get done. I really don't. You have a Democratic-led majority Congress. Do some stuff. Pass some bills. Send them to the Senate. Let the Senate shut it down then. But put it on them. Act like you're doing some friggin' work for America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously, Victoria, there's not a single politician in office right now who I feel like deserves another round of this. I would love to bring in all fresh new bodies.
Wipe them out. Yeah.
Take everybody out. Let's get a whole bunch of new people in. You got 4 years. You can't turn your shit around. You can head right back to the shit state you came from. No thanks. It's the United States of America. There's 50 states. People need to stop sending garbage like Lindsey Graham to the Senate. Start sending quality people who have America in mind and not just themselves or their party or their state. It's done. And I think we're in general just over it now.
Oh, I'm over it. And I cannot even believe I found this article today from the New York Times. Supreme Court Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito Jr., who dissented from the Supreme Court in 2015, they're talking about trying to recall the same-sex marriage precedent. How we are still talking about that, how that is still a question, that if that should be okay, that should be legal in this country now, is so absurd to me.
Sure, again, this is another one of those things they're calling religious liberty, which is just conservatives hiding behind bigotry and racism like they like to do. The reason, it's funny, go back to the era of slavery in this country, and do you know who the people defending slavery were in the United States during slavery? Preachers, pastors, and religious folk.
Right.
And do you know do you know where they felt that they had been given permission? Was in that fucking Bible.
Right.
The Bible, which does not condemn slavery, was what they used. And here we are, 150 years later, as black people are still fighting for rights. Now you have same-sex marriage back in the conversation again. You know, and it's funny, I know a lot of people, especially Republicans, who are supportive of gay people, and we're like, well, it's not like they can change the law. Hey, dumbass, that's not how it works. They can change the law. And when you put a conservative majority on the Supreme Court, it's exactly what they're going to do.
That is the point. And that is exactly what I've been trying to explain to so many people, because even, oh my God, I hate the call out, but my entire family is like, oh, even if we love black people, we love gay people, we love everybody, but we're still going to vote for Donald Trump because he can't change those laws, just him single-handedly, but everybody, and I'm like, everybody on that Supreme Court can. Everybody, those are the people that are going to change that actually have the authority to do that. And if it's all Republican, this is the stuff that is going to be in question, and this is what we're going to get rid of, and it helps literally nobody out. And how are you going to call this a free country, and how are you going to say that we have freedom of religion and free speech and all this stuff when all of our laws are based off of a magic book? That is literally insane.
Victoria, I think until, and it's, I mean, you know, 17% of people in this country now identify as basically atheists or agnostic. It's the fastest growing group over the last 10 years. It's actually doubled, and I suspect it will probably double again over the next decade or so. And the more we get away from that sort of prehistoric thought process, I mean, again, these are people who were very superstitious. The whole God complex comes about when you're 2 years old. That's why people have imaginary friends. Most of us get rid of the God complex by the age of 5, and that's when religion slips God in. It's all nonsensical. And look at Alito and Thomas are basically arguing, Victoria, that gay people getting married is basically an attack on religious people. Once again, much like that book, that shitty book, the conservative and the right's constant obsession with people's reproductive organs, right, is creepy. As you think Joe Biden's creepy, all you people talk about is gay sex and how much you hate it, which kind of makes me think you kind of like it. You're kind of at least a little curious about it.
Or
and if you
are, tell us that you're not having it, and that's why you need to get rid of it, so nobody can be having it if you can't be having it. Period.
Listen, again, if you think that same-sex marriage offends God, you're a fucking idiot. If you think there's a God and that God would have time to worry where you put your dick, I mean, are you people serious? I mean, I grew up religious, and the more religious people I talked to, the clearer this was bullshit. The more obvious it was bullshit, and that it was just another form of tribalism, which is the last thing we need in this country. It really is. We're so divided. Then you throw the religion in, and it's all over. You've got people that believe in magic, who thinks that you're going to upset the God that apparently destroyed cities in the world a few times over. I mean, it's all such unbelievable nonsense, and it's a shame that in 2020 that our politicians still have to go around and pretend that they give a shit or that they believe, when in fact most of them clearly don't. Does anybody think Donald Trump believes in God? Seriously?
Right.
You think someone who's lived a life of debauchery, of excess, who's untrustworthy, who screws you think that person's a Christian?
Right.
Let me tell you something. If you think that guy's okay, then your whole religion's bullshit.
Well, that's
all bullshit. You know it. I know it. And we're not fucking playing around anymore. I'm done with this shit. I'm done with this shit.
Right. Well, I think that everybody, well, especially when you said that within the past, what was it, 2 decades, Christianity and religion and all that kind of stuff has kind of like slipped away, and atheism and being agnostic and all that kind of stuff has grown. And I think that that is obviously just attributed to this generation and technology and stuff skyrocketing. Now everybody has the means and the resources to educate themselves on what's really going on out here. And I think that obviously that's why religion was just such a huge thing back in the day. Everybody just really did not know anything about anything. Nobody knew shit about shit. And now we have all the means to be able to know that and do those things. So obviously when you have more facts, you I literally sound so dumb. Anybody that is going to listen to this, I literally was about to be like, more fact is more smarter for us, the generation who don't believe in religion. Yep.
I feel like I should say something like Victoria's really smart and is clearly having a bad day, or she's tired. Maybe she's dehydrated. I'm not sure what it is.
Above.
Yeah. But look, we're in a bad way in this country. We really are, and I find it again really disappointing as somebody who, you know, grew up as a Christian, who grew up as a Republican, to see the way they behave, to see their reaction to being talked back to when they're the ones that are the constant aggressors.
Right.
I mean, it's
this problem. You started the conversation. You wanted to have it. And now that we're having it and discussing it with you, you're getting mad at us. And I don't know why.
But I am proud of your generation, because I think your generation, you know, it's funny. When I was a kid, I went to Catholic school as a kid. I went to a parochial school for my freshman year of high school before I got the boot. And yeah, I was a troublemaker, and you know me, you know how I can be an antagonistic person.
Yeah.
I had a young religion teacher. The guy was 25. He had just left the seminary. He didn't want to be a priest, but he still wanted to be around young boys, I guess.
Yeah.
So this was the job he took, and I loved the guy. I thought he was really great. And I'm a really smart dude, and I was super into history. I'm super into religion, and if you know anything about those two things, shit don't jive. I mean, it's like if somebody wrote a book and just put names in of famous people. They were like, you know, Marilyn Monroe and The Rock were great in that movie together. And you're just saying names. Those people clearly have never crossed paths. Decades between, and basically, if you go through the Bible and you look for the historical context, nothing aligns, nothing matches up. King Herod was actually dead before Jesus was born.
Heard.
I mean, people, the whole book's full of shit.
It's a book full of shit.
And here's the thing. I mean, if this magician had been born in Bethlehem, wouldn't there be like still a shrine to him or something? Or
right, where the grave at?
And how come nobody else at the time thought anything of it to write about it?
Right.
I mean, back in antiquity, Victoria, like a lot of writing they did back then. And can you imagine if they were like, dude, there's this like fucking magician guy, says he's from heaven, water into wine, curing the lepers. He just brought this dude Lazarus back from the dead the other day.
Yeah.
Y'all could be writing some shit about this guy. And instead what you have is nothing.
Literally nothing. Like, why nobody else caves? There's no writings. There's no scriptures. There's no absolutely nothing. How come? How come that? How come nobody came back? And I don't even want to say what I was going to say right now because it's absolutely not historically accurate. I'm just breaking on the Bible.
Well, if it's not historically accurate, then it could be in the Bible, Victoria. That's how it works. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a group of people on the right that don't accept basic facts because they believe in fucking magic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can believe in God, an all-powerful, all-knowing God who directs your life, has already pre-planned your life, if you're willing to believe all that, that it took him 7 days, why would it take a God 7 days to create anything is beyond me.
Right.
It doesn't seem like you'd think,
kind of God is that? Facts.
But it took them 7 days. If you can believe all of the bullshit that they taught you, you will believe anything with enough convincing.
Oh yeah,
and
that's how people get into cults and just all that kind of stuff.
I'm actually watching The Oath on Netflix about the group NXIVM that ended up they busted the chick from Smallville.
Yeah.
Smart, intelligent, attractive people who got suckered into being in a cult.
Yeah.
And they didn't know they were in a cult until they started branding the guy's initials on their genitalia with a soldering iron. And no anesthesia. No anesthesia, I should say. Not Anastasia. She's dead. Anyway, cults. They're very real. And if you're confused as to how any idiot can be in a cult and you're Christian,
Scientology is like popping still right now.
Yes.
Tom Cruise still up in there. He's in a cult right now.
But it's funny, Christians will make fun of Scientologists, and it's like, you guys are doing the same shit, though.
Exactly. Like, it's literally the same thing. Like, honestly, like, I'm like, y'all are worse. Like, how much money did you give to your church this year?
But here's the thing. Listen, Victoria, people can be religious. Separation of church and state.
Now this has turned into an episode of honestly just like ranking on religion. I'm really sorry about that. Like,
my apologies. I've been watching a lot of Christopher Hitchens videos lately, late at night, and it gets me super fired up. Because here's the other thing. Let me tell you a little bit about me for just a second.
Please.
Sometimes I think about the fact that I reject God. And I have that little game. It's called Pascal's Wager, where you're thinking to yourself, if I do believe, though, and there is a God, and I get to heaven, like, I'm in.
Like, you won the game, right?
But see, Christopher Hitchens, who, by the way, he passed away in 2012, one of the great thinkers of our generation, has something he calls Hitchens Wager, which is you go to the pearly gates and you explain to God, hey, look, I'm a man of integrity. You didn't give me enough evidence. Do I not get credit for that, for living a good life, for being a good person, for being a charitable person?
What if he just says no?
And I didn't need the threat of burning in hell from you as my main motivator to do it.
True.
Because for most Christians, if you took the, it's literally God's holding them back from raping and murdering us, Victoria.
Yeah.
And the more I see the way they behave, the more I'm convinced that literally this fucking wizard in the sky is the only thing that's stopping them from taking your shit and killing you.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
That is a scary indictment on the religious.
Oh, yeah. Religious people be scary sometimes. But honestly, I see that mostly in older religious people because I think nowadays, even like the younger people that I see, it's not the same. It's not as extreme. And I don't see as much hate in younger religious people nowadays. You know, it's a little bit more open and stuff. But like them geezers is hateful. Let me tell you that for sure.
But here's the problem, Victoria. Those geezers get to you after 30 years of them telling you how much they hate the gays. You'll eventually, you don't realize it because you have gay friends and you're super liberal and stuff. But like, you know, you get a little bit older, you're like, oh, gays. So flamboyant. You start to like, whoa, did that just come out of me?
Oh my God.
That's what happens when you just, and this is where the Trumpitos are in big trouble because the more he pounds these insane conspiracy theories and lies into their brain, the more they're apt to believe it because they want to believe it. They already want to believe it. That's the bad part.
Yeah.
So you just say it and it's like, nah, I was waiting to hear it. Now I don't even need to see facts. Sounds true to me. That's where we're at, and that's scary.
That's just not the way we roll over here, though.
Also, two Supreme Court justices coming out and talking about trying to repeal a law that they passed just 5 years ago is, I would think, completely inappropriate. And I would hope if the Democrats do take over, that maybe they would look at possible impeachment for these two big mouths.
Hopefully. And that is exactly why everybody needs to vote. If you are in Connecticut like we are, the voter registration is up, I believe, the 27th of October. So make sure you register to vote before then.
And I don't care where you live. even if it's Connecticut or Massachusetts or a blue state, vote. And if you're in a red state, vote.
Vote.
Every vote matters. Every single one, especially when you consider how many they're going to toss, because you know that shit's coming.
Yeah.
The more we need more in there, it'll be better for us. Trust me.
Seriously, that's your voice, and that's pretty much all you've really got when it comes to doing stuff like this. But anyways, you can find us on clovercrestmedia.com/dividedwestand. You can find us on Facebook. We're still banned, but like, it's fine. We're not going to talk about that. It's
only like a partial ban.
Yeah.
The good kind, a partial ban.
Yeah, it's like half ban. It's cute. It's a cute ban. It's whatever. So you can find us on YouTube, also at the Clovercrest Media YouTube page. Obviously, we're Divided We Stand, and you can catch us on Mondays at 8 or Sundays at 3 or whenever we just get around to it. If you like a spontaneous, funky show, then we are the one for you, my friend. So get with it. All right. For Joe Guire and me, Victoria Lang, deuces. Bye.